It's such a familial society.
It really
right?
is.
It's
That's
so
what
loving.
started to attract us to Ecuador specifically. That was really life-giving for about 3 or 4 years.
Sure.
And then it started to actually take life from us. And I really wanted to get out of that. And then she started to feel it as well, because it had stopped being what we should be doing. You know how sometimes that happens in life. It's like something just stops working.
Yeah, you like lose your
And
focus
so you
of
do
your
this.
original why, and now you're just
Yeah.
doing it because it's the motion that you've done for a while.
You know how the algorithm works.
Sure.
You're on this channel.
Yeah.
So you're searching something. And so were we just two and a half years ago.
We're both separately hearing that it was time, even though everything on the outside looked like you're set.
Right.
You could stay and do this forever, over and over again, or you could listen to what you're feeling inside and make a change.
Right. Oh, that's a good lesson for people.
That is a good
though.
lesson.
That's why
You're
it's so
welcome.
valuable.
Yeah.
It was horrible. We had set all this up and then had to turn around and come home.
It was absolutely brutal.
Hey guys, welcome back. Brandon here. I'm with my friends Jake and Michelle, and we're here for a new episode of Expat Life Ecuador. We just changed the name of the series, so if you've been following the Expat Profile series, this is along the same vein. We're just changing the name, Expat Life Ecuador. How awesome is that?
I love
Welcome,
it.
guys. Thanks for taking the
you.
time.
Thank
Very
you.
humbled
Thanks
to
for
be the
asking
first
us.
people after the
Yes, this is awesome. So we're here at Jake and Michelle's place in Vilcabamba, and we're just going to talk to them about life in Ecuador, a little bit about, you know, where they're from in the States, how they got here, and what they like and don't like about Vilcabamba and the whole experience of that. So,
Yeah,
you guys ready?
I'm ready.
Let's
Yeah,
do it. Awesome. So great shirt, Jake.
Thanks, man.
That is
I bought
awesome.
it for her sister, and our brother-in-law are obsessed with The Office.
Okay.
I found it in Cuenca, I think.
Really?
And I wanted to wear it back to Kentucky, and of course they had a reaction that I was proud of.
Yes.
They wanted my shirt.
Because
Yes.
we don't know.
We don't
anything
even
really
watch
about
it.
The
Oh, you
Office.
guys don't know it?
No.
Oh!
I mean, we've seen a couple episodes.
It's for them.
Oh,
It was just so
okay.
they would think it was.
Because
All right.
they like speak in Office terminology.
References all day long.
I was about to drop a Bear Beats Battlestar Galactica. But, all right. You guys
We wouldn't know.
Okay.
It's a
Now,
misleading
New
shirt.
Girl, I'd be
Okay,
right there.
okay.
Right there with you.
Cool. All right. Well, why don't you guys share with where are you guys from originally?
We're from Kentucky. in the
Kentucky.
States, yeah.
All right.
I'm from Lexington,
Okay.
in the middle of Kentucky.
And I'm from a town called Flatwoods.
Okay. So are they close?
About 2 hours
hours.
apart.
Okay. Cool. And how did you? So born and raised Kentucky.
Yeah.
Ish.
Ish.
Yeah, my dad was in the military, so
Okay.
we moved around like every 3-ish years.
Okay.
for most
Cool.
Of my life.
And and how did you guys meet in Kentucky?
We met at P.F. Chang's China Bistro.
Yes. I love PF Chang's. Yes.
She was the best looking female employee, and I was the best looking male employee, and it just made sense.
Awesome.
Hey, Mark.
Awesome.
We're
Cool.
doing a video. You want to say hi to YouTube?
Yeah. Come on in.
There's the camera.
That's a close one, huh? So Jake and Michelle have a couple of children that came to Ecuador with you guys, right? You have
Three
kids.
kids,
Yeah.
Yep.
Kiddos.
Yes, Harmon, who you just saw, he's 9. He just turned 9, and then we have Journey, who's 8 as of 3 days ago, and Sailor, who we call Say, she's 6.
Cool. So you all born in the state, all born in Kentucky?
All born-
Yes.
Not all in Kentucky.
Oh.
Oh yeah, different
we-
states.
When we met, we moved to Colorado,
Okay.
and we had Harmon, our oldest, in Colorado.
That's
Oh,
And
interesting.
we came back to Kentucky
Kentucky.
after a few years in Colorado and had Journey and Say.
Yeah.
And Say was born in our kitchen.
Oh,
Yeah,
awesome.
It was a home birth.
Home birth.
Yeah, that was a
Sweet.
fun experience.
My son Quinn was home birth as well.
So cool.
that's
So
great.
cool.
It's the most powerful thing I've ever seen.
It's pretty special, huh?
Yeah, nothing beats it.
Proof of female gender is more powerful
Definitely.
than male.
Definitely superior.
How about it? I've been giving Tiffany a hard time. She's like, it's not that bad, right? I'm like, well, you never had a tattoo. How do you know it's not as bad as that? And she's like, don't you dare.
No, you definitely
I'm just
cannot
kidding.
relate
Just
the two.
kidding.
As
So-
someone who's had a tattoo,
Yes.
and also a home birth is way harder.
Yes.
I think when it gets close to here, it hurts just as bad as childbirth. You know what I'm saying?
Y'all are out. I'm finishing the video alone for the rest of the time.
Hey guys, it is what it is. Okay, so you guys met at PF Chang's.
Yep.
You decided to move to Colorado. You moved out of Kentucky, went to Colorado.
Yes.
What brought you guys to Colorado? Were you guys just the adventurous type, or
I mean, we are adventurous.
We are adventurous.
But we moved to Colorado for Bible school.
get out of here?
Yeah.
Together?
Yes.
Yeah, we went out there. Yeah, it was a place called Charis Bible College.
Okay.
Which is the word grace in Greek.
Okay.
So Grace Bible College in the Springs, and then I actually went there for 3 years, and she went there for 1.
It was
Interesting.
after I had graduated college
Yeah,
at
she had already graduated
University of
UK.
Kentucky. Then we went to Bible school
Oh.
for like a master's or a secondary
Interesting.
program. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, I went to a Christian university called Judson in Illinois.
Judson.
University.
Judson.
Yeah,
Okay.
yeah.
Cool, man.
Interesting. Okay, cool.
And we were there for 3.5 or 4 years.
Okay.
And then we moved back to Kentucky in February 2014.
Okay.
And Harmon was 4 months.
Oh wow.
So
Okay, and
yeah.
Harmon's 9 now. You said?
Yeah,
9.
yeah.
9 going on 10. Okay, cool. So then, did you guys stay in Kentucky after Bible school? You stayed in Kentucky
Yeah.
up until you came to Ecuador?
Yeah,
Yes, we did.
we did. We were there for like 8 years.
Yeah.
Okay.
Till November 2021 when we moved to Ecuador.
My parents are there, my sister and her family's there, and then his family, a lot of his family lived like 2 hours away.
Yeah,
So
they still
we-
live in Lexington.
we-
Okay.
So.
Okay, so you got tons of family there. So there's
Yep.
lots of reasons to stay in
Oh,
Kentucky,
yeah.
huh?
Lots of
Oh yeah,
reasons.
big community. Lots of kids that know each other inside and out and play
Right.
effortlessly together
We
all the time.
actually,
and-
we also had a great homeschooling community.
Oh, cool.
Yeah, because we've homeschooled from the beginning, and so
Awesome.
we had probably 12 other families that also
Wow.
homeschooled in the area. That
Awesome.
I'm really good friends with the moms, and the kids got along. So yeah,
Yeah.
Kentucky had everything we could have ever wanted.
And pretty good weather too, right? Generally decent weather.
Yeah, it's not bad. I mean, winters can get cold, like 20 or something like that. The occasional, like this past winter, it got down to 0
Oh
for
wow.
4 days right around Christmas, and we have rental properties back there. So those 4 days, like every pipe busted in like
Oh.
every house,
In every
but for
house.
every homeowner and landlord. So
Yeah.
it was,
Right.
it
It was
was
the coldest it's ever gotten. I think.
yeah,
Well,
none of the
maybe not
buildings
ever,
could handle.
ever that I know.
Yeah,
Wow.
usually no less than like 30, 25.
Cool.
Yeah.
So is that what you guys did for a living back in the States? Property management or
We had
landlords or real estate investment? Yeah.
Well, we got into real estate in around like 16 or 17, but we had a church there called Grace Culture.
That we pastored,
Okay.
And
and that was our income, our job, our livelihood for a
Awesome.
while. Yeah.
yeah, when we got back, I was selling furniture for a friend of her dad's, and I'm the world's
It was so sad.
worst salesman.
He got demoted.
I got demoted and sent to the outlet, which is where the salesman went to die.
because he was so bad.
Like I remember we had just gotten out of debt, so we were like super passionate about how to live debt free.
Sure.
Like to the point where we would fire hose people that even didn't want to listen.
Right.
And I remember these young couples would come in and they just got married and they would finance like $21,000 of furniture, and I would like try to talk them out of it. And then the manager pulled me in and was like, "Jake, bro,
Like, you have to stop.
I get it. Like, you don't want these newlyweds to bury themselves in debt, but like, you are a furniture salesman. Like, you gotta let it go."
Right.
But I was really bad at that. And then while we were in Bible college, I had started kind of like teaching and speaking some and realized I really loved it. And then her parents, when I was selling the furniture, they sat us down and said they wanted to start a church with just a really loving, inclusive message about a very gracious, loving God that really was absent in our town. There's a million churches,
We're in the Bible Belt. So there's
Sure.
but it's fire and brimstone, and hell is hot. Rapture's coming. Get right or get left.
not all, but
not
a
not
lot.
all. Yeah. So they really wanted to have that sort of message in the town that they're from, and they're so passionate about Ashland and Flatwoods where we're from. So we did that, and so yeah, I was the music pastor and the pastor, and
And
Michelle
I was
was
the children's,
kids.
and I was the heart healing minister.
Oh,
Yeah,
cool.
we had like a heart healing ministry, and
Great. That's awesome.
yeah, so that's what we did, and that I would say that was really life giving for about 3 or 4 years.
Sure.
And then it started to actually take life from us, and I really wanted to get out of that, and then she started to feel it as well. So we got into to real estate. I always give my father-in-law props because I was desperate for a way out of running that church because it had stopped being what we should be doing. You know how sometimes that happens in life. It's like something just stops working.
Yeah, you like lose your
And
focus
so you
of
do
your
this.
original why, and now you're just
Yeah.
doing it because it's the motion that you've done for a while.
Right. So I would say a year and a half or so after we started to feel this, we just like, no, this isn't happening. We kept doing it, and then her dad is big into rental properties since he's retired. And I went to him and asked him if he would ever consider giving us a few houses so that I could start to build from that and create a life where we weren't pastoring. And that was just our path.
Sure.
Some pastors can do it for 30, 40 years, you know. And so he said that he had felt kind of in his heart to do that 6 months before I asked.
Wow.
So he gave us, and I'm going to say the truth, Dave, he gave us his 6 worst rental houses, 3 of which were vacant and 1 or 2 were rented. But I went in to visit him, and I actually cried because it was just so different than what I pictured. Like, so then, but because of that, we were able to kind of launch off of that and acquire more rentals because those were debt free. So we were able to get like HELOCs, like a home equity line of credit,
sure.
where they'll give you 80% of the value of a property, what you've paid down on it. So then we started to build, and I feel like I'm talking a long time, but this
No,
is
it's
how we
good.
got here
No, it's
because
great.
it wasn't until the rental income got to where we could, if we were very frugal, we could pay for our family's life in Eastern Kentucky, that dreams started to come up about living, showing our kids a world bigger than just the States. That wasn't possible when I had to be at the church, 50, 60 hours a week. And, but then we found ourselves, because of the rentals, a lot of months nothing happens when you're a landlord. And it's like awesome,
Right.
because you're just getting paid rent, no problems. And then you'll have months where lots of stuff happens. But basically, we were like time free. And we were like, oh. And then these dreams started to come up.
What do we want to do with our free time?
Right.
What is important to us? Like all these
Right.
questions that you don't really have space for when your life is full.
Yeah.
And we had heard like you could find a less expensive life outside of the U.S. And so I was like, I wonder what our income in Kentucky, which wasn't anything like mind blowing at all. I mean, I think at the peak we had 14 rentals. So how would that spend in a different country, And
Sure.
then I think I was the one that came to you, I think, and said,
You read that book.
oh, I read a book called Nomad Capitalist.
Oh yeah.
You heard
Yeah.
about that?
Yeah, I've read it. Yeah.
Go where you're treated best.
Yeah.
And
Totally.
not that felt like we were being treated poorly, but it definitely went like that to the thinking, talking about dual and triple citizenships and why you would do that and
Sure.
where to put your money. And
Well, and
it
also
expanded
you're
us.
kind of, I'll speak for myself,
Please.
from a young age, you're taught that like the States is the greatest country on earth
Yep.
and you're so lucky, and like
Yeah.
you see videos or you go on mission trips to other places and it's always like the bad conditions, and then you're
Yes.
like, oh, I'm so thankful for my lights, and whatever it is, that's what you're taught in the States, or at least that's what I was taught. And so you just don't think outside of the
Right.
bubble
Right.
that is the States, because
Yeah.
it's scary. You're kind of taught not to.
Right.
you
That's
know?
hard. That's a hard framework to break. It's interesting as you're telling your story. It's making me think about. There's an underlying theme with a lot of the families and people that I meet that come to Vilcabamba, because it's not easy to leave where you're from.
No.
Right. For all the reasons you have family, you have security, you have, this
Comfort,
comfort.
ties.
Right. You
Yeah.
have this
Predictability.
Right, you have all that. So there's a level of guile, a level of bravery. I don't know what the right word is, but to actually take the step. But some of the interesting common themes is, and you've kind of talked about it, you were the heart minister? What was it?
Heart healing
Heart healing.
minister.
But there's like some level of like heart-centered people that are doing this because,
Right.
and maybe you nailed it. Maybe it's because they're the people that have had time to not be stuck in the rat race, to
Yeah.
actually think about what's important.
Yeah.
Why are we doing it? What do
Right.
you know? So like my wife and I, we used to ask ourselves 5 questions every morning. Who are you? Who do you want to be? What do you value? How do you want to spend your time? What do you want to teach your kids? Every day, like those are the questions. And
That's great.
those aren't great, they're hard to have real answers for that.
Yeah.
But it's like you guys had your process that kind of answered those things, and then that allows you to make a decision to where you don't need to necessarily even know the right answer. It's just, hey, right?
Say that
we're
again.
right. We're doing it, and who can tell us we're wrong because we're doing it to be the people we want to be, to live our values,
Yeah.
to show our kids what we want to show them because we think it's important, right? So.
Yes.
So there seems to be like a heart-centered version of that, of people
Yeah.
that I meet that are
Yeah.
all kind of have those values, that are looking for that freedom for, obviously Ecuador we're on the equator, guys, so it's got great climate. Vilcabamba particularly, we're about
Vilcabamba's
So
perfect every day.
such great weather
Five-
all the time.
right,
10 out of
right.
10.
Yeah, it's we're about 5,000 feet in elevation or so. And it never gets cold. It never gets hot, really. I mean, it's like mid 80s is really the
About as hot
warmest.
as it gets.
You can wear a sweatshirt or a tank top, whatever you're feeling.
Right,
I
right.
love that.
It cools off at night, so
Yes.
Right.
it's nice. You can pull the covers up. I mean, we haven't
Yeah.
even closed the windows in 2 years,
No.
right? I mean, you guys.
Don't
No,
even
our
need
house
to.
is like based
It's just
75%
open.
outside.
Right. So there's lots of cool things. There's lots of things that bring people here, but one of those things is that, a more mindful approach to, at least with the families, of how they're raising their children, how they
Yes.
want to raise their children. in
Yeah,
what types of
very-
environments.
Yeah.
Right.
Totally.
So cool, guys. So that was some of the things that you were living, a version of that
Yeah.
in Kentucky. And then you got to that point where you're like, this is not right for us anymore. You started the rental thing. That
Yep.
We read the book.
read the book, Nomad
Capitalist.
Capitalist.
Yeah.
Yes, check out Nomad Capitalist YouTube channel, guys, if you haven't. They've got a lot of great information on living lives abroad and how to be successful in anywhere you are in the world. So
It helps you because I think, a lot of the people, like you mentioned earlier, babe, there's not even a curiosity because maybe it was taught out of us
Sure.
about the world. And that I'm not saying anything negative. I'm very thankful to have been born in the States.
Mhm.
But Nomad Capitalist was the first time I thought, ever even considered, oh, wow.
right.
Oh yeah, there's hundreds of countries, and we're kind of time and location free because of it's not really passive income, but mostly passive income that the rentals were bringing. And like you said, there's a scarcity and a desperation in the States with a lot of people, unfortunately, where they're so much of their energy is to keep the machine going.
Yep.
That maybe there's not any time or space in your brain to
Yeah.
dream about that or consider it. And the Nomad Capitalist was like, if you haven't ever imagined it,
It
that
helps you
channel
look
will.
beyond
And
your
this channel
current
too. I mean,
framework.
this channel ended up on the algorithm.
Right,
Once
right.
the YouTube, which leads us in, segue.
Well done.
So because of that book, we started to YouTube search expat life in it started with Portugal. It's the first place we ever typed in.
Sure.
And then
he
you
says,
learn
he
things.
says we, but it was all you. You led
It's true.
this.
Yeah. I was
100%.
really the one that was feeling this first.
Sure.
And she totally leads our family. Like she catches the whole spiritual thing that's happening with our family first. And
moves us into that. But he moved us into this one.
yeah, so I looked at Portugal and then and then Spain starts coming up. You know how the algorithm works.
Sure.
You're on this channel.
Yeah.
So you're searching something, and so were we just two and a half years ago, and then I started learning about the different levels of difficulty in the visa processes,
Sure.
and then that there's different levels of welcoming spirits towards Americans.
Right.
You
That's
know,
key.
like they're not super
Yeah.
pumped in a lot of countries, especially in Europe, for us to move in.
For people that
Um,
move in that only speak one language, that a lot of times want to make it their way.
Right.
You know, there's some
Right,
things
and that's what's cool here is there's the expats here integrate
Right.
yes.
for the most part.
Yep.
We want to be to serve the Ecuadorians and learn their culture.
Well, and the locals are so
They're so
welcoming.
sweet.
It's
Yeah.
incredible how when my Spanglish,
Right.
and they're like, I know I didn't say that right at all, nowhere near right, but you got it.
Yeah.
Thank you so much.
And you didn't shame me for my
Yes, you
poor
didn't make a face.
pronunciation.
It's such a familial society.
It really
right?
is.
It's
That's
so
what started
loving.
to attract us to Ecuador specifically. The
Interesting.
multi-generational properties specifically, because back home you turn 18 and you're out.
Yep.
But here, a lot of these, like even the property we're on has 3 structures, livable structures, because in their mind, abuelo and abuela
Right.
are in the main house, and then second generation's in the other house, and then maybe you got a third generation,
Sure.
all on one property, and the families do life together, and that was really
It's beautiful,
attractive.
It
and
is
it's
really
so
beautiful.
beautiful. I lived with my grandparents for 18 years, so
Wow.
Oh, wow.
like that's an important part for my wife also lived with her grandparents for a long time, so it's important for us to like have that, and that was kind of it's important, but it's also the hardest because my parents and her parents are still in the States.
Yeah.
So the fact that we came to a society where that's kind of ingrained, it's familiar. Yes, it's not the same. It's not replacing their grandparents, but the kind of the core values are here, and they're kind of ingrained. They're rooted here in the community, which is
Yes.
awesome to see, where children are kind of valued.
Yes,
Yeah,
absolutely.
they have a voice.
And they're
They
right. They have a voice, and then the generations are respected. And,
Yeah, but it's like you're looking forward.
Right.
You've got your children here. So
Yeah.
maybe your children will stay here
Yeah.
or stay somewhere like this, and
Yeah.
they will live with their parent.
Sure.
So you're thinking forward, and we are too.
Cool.
We wanted our kids to be in a place where not everybody looked like them.
Right.
Not everybody came from the same background as them, spoke the same language as them, just to see that there's a different world besides the box that
Sure.
that
during
was
those
our lives.
formative years,
Right.
Yeah.
0 to 9 or 12 or whatever it is, to show them all that and just kind of mark them with it.
Right.
That they learn to think big and think globally and stuff as kids.
Yeah. And then thinking future. Maybe they'll live somewhere,
Right.
that they weren't born in. That's
And-
so cool.
And critically think. Like it seems like critical thought is kind of
Yes.
missing in a lot of places
Right.
in
Yes.
the world these days. But
Totally.
it seems like there's a pretty good group of folks here that are really critically thinking about a lot of
Yep.
big things and
Yes.
small
They're
things.
very intentional. There's
Right.
a lot of intentional people here.
Right.
Yeah,
Intentional.
when you meet people here, there's like a built-in kindred spirit because they ended up here and you ended up here.
Yep.
So there's automatically kind of like a vibe where you get each other to a great degree.
Totally.
You may have little differences in how you parent or do life or eat or whatever,
Mm-hmm.
but basically you kind of vibe with a
Right.
lot of people that you
Yeah.
meet here.
Yeah. It's beautiful.
Yeah,
it's
it's
beautiful.
very cool. Like you.
Yeah. Like you, buddy. Hi, yeah. All right.
Has the camera seen your sleeve, by the way?
I've been keeping it a secret kind of for a while. I've been kind of
Okay,
keeping it
sorry.
out, but so I got part of it done. We're getting the rest done this week. So my boys I've been keeping this a secret from. If you see this,
No.
it's all good. Yeah.
I'm
It's all
we'll
good.
edit that out.
Maybe we'll edit that out. Maybe we'll keep it. Who knows? All right. So cool. So you guys got to the rentals. You were successful. You changed your life with that. That opened up your eyes. You watched Nomad Capitalist. That
Yeah.
broadened things. What compelled you to make the jump? Because you guys have been in Ecuador. You've been in Vilcabamba for about a year or so.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But you didn't come straight to Vilcabamba.
10 months.
Right?
No.
You guys came to
It started
Ecuador
on the coast.
on the coast.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yes.
So talk us through that. So was it from Kentucky to the coast of Ecuador? Was that
Yeah.
the first jump?
Yes.
So the last push, because you asked what really pushed us over the edge to come, it was honestly just how we felt inside. It was honestly our intuition. We felt like we were both separately hearing. That's my son. We were both separately hearing that it was time, even though everything on the outside looked like you're set.
Right.
You could stay and do this forever over and over again, or you could listen to what you're feeling inside and make a change.
Right.
So we did it, and it was funny because Jake led the whole thing, and I just want to tell the story because it might also be helpful to people. So Jake led the whole thing and did all the research, and so we planned a 2-week trip, our initial scouted out trip.
Oh yeah.
And we had our kids being taken
Forgot
care
about
of
this.
by at least 2 different sets of families, if not a third set of family, for 2 weeks.
They stayed in the States.
They stayed in the
Oh,
States,
oh,
yes.
you two stayed. Oh, so-
Yeah.
We just wanted to come to make sure we wanted to do it.
Because for, in a 2-week period, you're kind of pushing yourself out of what even you really should on the daily. You're
Sure.
like, we've got to go see this even though we're exhausted. We didn't want to make our kids do that same
Right.
thing. So
Right on.
they stayed they stayed home with people that love them, and we came here. Well, we came to Fort Lauderdale. And then in Fort Lauderdale, we went to the counter of JetBlue, and they said, your passports are less than 6 months valid.
Oh, that's a good lesson for people.
That is a good
though.
lesson.
That's why
You're
it's so
welcome.
valuable.
Yeah.
It was horrible. We had set all this up and then had to turn around and come home.
It was absolutely brutal
Yeah.
in Fort Lauderdale. And I had led the whole thing, booked everything, which is out of my kind of gifting.
I'm kind of the administrator.
She's the
of
administrative
life.
kind of organizational one. And I overlooked that. And all the, that information, I never
Right.
stumbled upon it.
It's so easy to overlook because there's so many things that
Yep.
you were doing.
Right, that's what happened. And then we just had to book a little
Flight home.
Allegiant flight, the
Right.
airline that just shoots back and forth from Kentucky to Florida all day. And we went back the next day because
Oh, what a shame.
It was such a shame.
Ah.
But
so it
then
was
we-
5 months later that we actually came.
Yeah, we came 5 months
So the
later.
key is, guys, if you're traveling international, make sure you have more than 6 months
Yes.
before expiration on your passport. Otherwise, renew it before you leave the country, or you can face issues.
Yes.
You will face
We will.
issues.
Yeah.
It was shot. We tried out. We're like, we'll give you money.
Oh yeah, I'm like,
What can we do? What can we do? And they're like, there's nothing.
Nothing.
Nothing,
Nothing.
you can do. Just go.
Which is such a silly thing, in my opinion.
I know.
Right?
It is
I mean,
one of those
Then
red tape.
why
things,
does
which
it
is
go
dumb.
for 6 months? Why does it not
know.
expire 6 months earlier then? Like what?
Yeah.
Like what's the? Yeah.
What's
just
the
seems
point
so
of the expiration
arbitrary.
date
Right.
If, yes, arbitrary
you
is
can't-
a great word.
Travel. Yeah. All right. Anyway, so you got here. So 5 months later, so you went back. Then you had to recalibrate again.
Then we
Yes.
visited Monza for 4 days and Olon for 4 days.
And it was just the two of you.
Just the
Just
two
the
of
two
us.
of us
Okay.
still, yeah.
And we
We just came for a week this
hated
time.
Monza personally.
Really?
Not everybody hates
Sure.
Monza. So nothing against it. Just for us, it was
It's
totally
different.
wrong.
Yeah.
And where it was on the front end of our trip, it was actually super discouraging.
I cried. I
bet.
cried the whole time.
Yeah.
I would walk around the town and just weep. I went to the grocery store and wept.
She,
Yeah.
It's definitely Manta's kind of. I mean, they call it like the Miami of Ecuador. It's a port city. There's like the coast. You guys can talk about this, but the coast. There's like a restaurant row and high rise luxury condos and movie theater in English. So it's an expat destination that certain people are looking for. If you're looking
for
for
sure.
a life that is like more catered and you want convenience and similar kind of expectations as you would in the West, in the States, or in Canada,
Yeah.
some places of Europe. It's people like that, like
Right.
Malta.
There's so many
Quito
people that
or
like it.
Monte.
That's why we went, because
Right.
people say such good things about
Right.
it. But for us, especially, I think me being from Flatwoods,
Right.
going to a town that's called Miami, that's similar to Miami. It
Yeah.
just didn't work.
Right, raising a family. I mean, people do it. Don't get me wrong. but
Yeah.
it's just not. It's not
Right.
for
It
everybody.
has to be
right?
your vibe.
Yeah,
for sure.
totally,
faster
totally.
pace.
Much
Yeah,
faster pace. Yeah.
different energy. There were a lot of police in the streets when we were there. This was August 2021, so it was COVID-related police.
Okay. Sure.
But then we drove south to, we rented the car, and when we drove to Olon,
Okay.
and we started to feel
Such
better
peace.
energy
Yeah.
30 minutes from Olon.
Wow.
We were like, oh, okay. And then we really liked our time in Olon.
Yeah.
And a couple of the other kind of Ecuador channels at that time was based in Olon, and
Right.
one of them,
My Life Unknown.
Our Life Unknown.
Our Life Unknown.
Kevin
Yes.
and Claire.
I used to watch them. Yeah.
Yeah.
Kevin was like my bro.
Oh, no kidding.
Alone.
Yeah.
Oh,
We
cool.
worked
Yeah.
out together every morning, and
Sweet.
he's a really mindful, awesome guy. And
Yeah,
Claire
same-
is just
same vibe,
awesome.
for sure.
Her smile, like
Oh,
she has
Claire's
so
the
much
best.
joy and kindness. It's like insane.
Right. Isn't Claire from the Midwest? She's from like
Yeah,
Wisconsin.
they're from
Or
Wisconsin.
Yeah.
both of them are.
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah.
Are they back in Wisconsin?
No,
they're still in.
They're still in Olon.
Okay.
Yeah, I actually tried to get Kevin to move here for like the first 2 months I was here, and then I actually became very annoying and felt myself
It was
be like,
changing.
dude, stop.
Yeah.
Ah.
Because we were loving Vilcabamba so much.
Interesting.
So the coast, we got there, and we
Visit. Visit, and we loved it. We felt peace.
Yeah.
We
We
felt
liked it.
like this could be a place that we raise our family.
Right. Yeah, and the beach in Olon is like so amazing. And so then that was in August, and then we made like a 90-day. We were out in 90 days, and Michelle sold 92.6 repeating % of our stuff.
Well done.
So I took over the visa duties,
Sure.
which again, outside of my gifting, big time, because I knew she had a huge job selling all of our stuff. I mean,
Sure.
we had an American level of stuff we had accumulated.
Yeah, with 3 kids that we homeschooled.
Yeah.
Wow.
The amount of games and books and all the things, just so many things.
Yeah,
But we
so
still
she
have a
held them
storage
on
unit.
Saturday. Yeah,
We still have a storage unit that we have a few things in.
we pondered the container,
Okay, so you
pondered
did
it.
do the.
We did not do a container.
Okay.
and
We
then
came
we were
with
like, we
how
feel
many?
like let's do a purge.
How many suitcases did we come with?
We came with 8 check bags, like 50-pound check bags, and 6 carry-ons, 5 carry-ons, and 5 backpacks.
All right.
And 4 of those were toys and books.
Yeah.
I think one whole thing was Legos.
Then
Awesome.
camera, musical equipment.
Only as an
That's all.
essential.
Yeah. They almost didn't let me through with my camera, and I had one carry-on that was filled with all my music stuff, like that could fit in a carry-on. Like I brought a little 2-channel recording interface, and basically shrunk. I had a studio in our old house, and I shrunk the studio down
Sure.
so I could bring it to Ecuador, and then camera stuff. And I don't know if I crossed some unspoken threshold of how much electronics you should put in a carry-on. That's something I feel like people should look up. Like, I know I had read don't check like
Right.
a bag with thousands of dollars of electronics. So I put it in the carry-on, and they barely let me through. Like I had to have a big long talk with the people, and I was really worried they were gonna, but they let us through.
Was that talking English or Spanish?
Spanglish.
Okay.
Spanglish.
Really poor Spanglish. Level 1.5. Yeah.
So that stuff you guys brought to Olon then?
Yeah.
This
we
was all
brought
stuff-
that to.
This was
Olon.
all to Olon. And how long were you in Olon then?
6 months from November 21 to the end of May 22.
So
So 6 months.
so straight to Olon, and what were the things of? Talk about like your expectations on when you
Yeah.
visited Olon for that period of time that compelled you enough to say yes, let's do the 90-day chug and
Yeah.
get it done and make the move, and then because you're not in Olon anymore. So what
Yeah.
changed, or what met expectations, what didn't? Can you talk a little bit about that?
Well, I had always dreamt of living on the beach, so that was a lot of what Alone was like.
Well,
was
and
about.
I think a lot of people, it signifies something in the beach.
The
like,
beach is a symbol
like
of
he
like
made
freedom.
it.
Right.
You know, like I want to retire to the beach.
Yeah.
And so he loves the beach, and I love the beach too. But living there full time, it just wasn't. It wasn't for us. Everything.
It was cool for like a month.
Oh, no kidding.
Yeah, for us living there.
And we were
beyond that.
beachfront, so we were beachfront. Everything was always wet. I got into a moist bed every single night.
That's true.
Oh,
Like
man.
nothing ever really
Nothing
dries.
dry.
So if you have
Interesting.
tactile stuff, it starts to bug you. It really bugged Michelle.
I have tactile stuff, and it bugged me. But even you without tactile stuff,
Right.
it started to
Eventually, I
bug
was
you.
like, so that started to bug us.
Well, and everything's sandy, and then the weather, like so.
Oh yeah. The
I
truth
think-
about Alone's weather.
Yeah.
Dun, dun, dun.
Da-da-da.
I had heard, people throw around perfect. Like we
Right.
say perfect,
About
at
Vilcabamba,
Vilcabamba, and
yeah.
I guess that's all relative. Like
Right.
what is perfect to you?
Mm-hmm.
So in Alone, it was really, really sunny and amazing for
3 months,
January, February, March, April.
maybe 4 months.
For
tops.
4 months. I think we saw our first sun. I think there was sun on Thanksgiving Day, I'm not even kidding, and sun on Christmas Day. And that was it in November and December.
Yeah, we had read the sun comes out in November, so we moved there November 8th, and then there was no sun until like January 16th.
Well, sun-
I mean, for like maybe 10. We're talking the sun peaked out, and then went back for like after like 10 minutes on Thanksgiving and Christmas.
Really?
It was cool.
Yes.
So you're not kidding, like literally days or weeks of no sun?
Oh,
It's
like-
only sunny for January through April, and it's cloudy for the next 8 months.
And it always
So it
looks the
wears on you
exact
mentally.
same.
Yeah,
The
it wore on
sky.
us.
Yeah, the sky is always the same. Like it's always gray with no clouds when the sun
Like
isn't
one
out.
shade of gray.
So I felt like,
Interesting.
have you ever watched the show Under the Dome?
Yeah,
It's
yeah.
so weird.
Yeah.
But
It started
it
to feel like
sound
under
it
the
felt
dome.
like Under the Dome.
Really?
We were on the set. Of
Yes, because it always looked
We
the
would just
same.
joke about it.
Right,
It's a
right,
great
right.
place.
Every morning we'd wake up and be like, oh, it's the same. And, oh, still looks the same. Like literally. And it was very much affecting my mental health.
Sure. No, it
Very-
did. That's one of the reasons we moved from Chicagoland area, because the last place we lived was about an hour and a half out of Chicago, so it was more rural, but it was still 2 weeks, 3 weeks sometimes without the sun. You'd have days and days and days on end. And I was just, my wife says, you've got a problem. Like, I was struggling
Yeah.
with, like,
It happens.
being
It's
happy.
very
Yes, like I just feel sad
Yeah.
all the time. That's
No,
how
I
I
was the same
felt
way.
in
Yeah.
Alone. And
So
the
that's-
sun was like life. It was literally life.
Right.
And it would come out, babe, we'd
Right.
stop everything.
So
Let's
the
go
whole
out.
town, it's really cool. When the sun peaks out during the cloudy months, which that's 8.5 months of the year, everybody drops everything they're doing in Alone and runs to the beach.
No kidding.
So
really
those
cool.
days, the sun came out, and literally we couldn't believe it. In like 5 minutes, there were 1,500 people on the beach,
Party.
Yeah,
Oh,
it was
awesome.
and everybody jumped in and swam, and then the sun went back.
Oh,
So it was hot and sunny for every day for about 90 days straight. So you do have this huge, hot, sunny section,
sure.
and it's hot. There's an ocean breeze. Our house was like behind this wall, so we were like on the beach, but without a breeze.
Oh.
And again, you wouldn't think this would be a big deal, but man, like our house was so hot.
Wow.
So
Yeah,
if you
there-
move to Alone or in that coastal section of
Make
Ecuador,
sure to get the breeze.
get that second floor balcony if you can.
Oh, sure. That's a good point.
Because we would go visit other people who had that. We go, oh, this isn't bad at all.
Right.
Right in the heat of the day, it's so doable.
Well, and another thing is a lot of the streets are dirt, which is fine.
Yeah.
But for the 8 months that it's not sunny, it's misting. So they're muddy.
Very muddy.
And you're covered. You would need a whole different like wardrobe for
of the
muddy.
mud.
Yes.
Yeah.
Like not just boots. Like you need special pants because that's how muddy it was.
And we got used to it.
Sure.
But if you
Yeah.
don't like a dirty kind of town,
Right.
and then so during the sunny season,
And there were a lot of stray dogs. Like
yeah, like hundreds of dogs.
stray dogs.
The town is 6 or 7 streets off of the main coastal highway there, and there were probably at least 75 dogs that are ownerless.
Wow.
That you don't know if they're going to attack you or not.
You don't
Like,
know
there's
if they're cool or
stories
not.
Of that.
Wow.
And I had a
Funny
motorcycle, and they love to chase. So sometimes I'd have my kids on the motorcycle, and I would pass one of those dogs that loves to go after motorcyclists. And there were a couple times that I really almost laid the bike down with my kids on it.
Oh, man.
So I didn't love that, and I love dogs. Like we're dog people.
Sure.
But even that was a little much, especially they come after bicycles and scooters too. So like if you're riding your bicycle around, you're even slower, and then he's
Right.
coming after you. But
There are many great things
Many
about
great
Alone that
things.
we really loved, but those were the things that kind of just broke it. The weather was probably the main thing,
Okay.
I think.
And Harmon said, our son, who appeared briefly at the beginning, we were like, why don't you ever go to the beach? This was like month 3. Like our kids had just kind of stopped even mentioning going out to the beach. And Harm just very honestly was like, well, Dad, it was cool for like the first month. But we live here, so it's not special anymore. Is that basically what you said, Harmon? Yeah.
All right. Perfect.
So-
Thanks, Harm.
So I started to jump back on YouTube about other places in Ecuador.
Okay. So that's how you found Vilcabamba then.
Well,
Wrong.
I
We had heard
said-
about Vilcabamba first, and you wanted to move here first.
So I know I'm mountains.
Okay.
I love mountains. I
All
love
right.
hiking.
Yeah.
I like
Mountains,
mountain
rivers.
people.
Sure.
I just
No,
like it
great.
all. Yeah.
Yeah.
And I knew that I want to go to the vacation at the beach. I want to go for a month or 2, and then I want to leave, and I
Right.
don't want to be sandy anymore. I
Yep.
knew that about myself. But he was leading this, and this was a dream, and the only way to like get through dreams is to get through them. Like if
Yeah,
not, they're
you
just
experience
always on
it,
this
and you're like-
pedestal, and you're just always talking about it. So go experience that dream,
Make
and
it
then see
reality.
what you think.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah.
it's still a dream.
We have so much in common, dude. Like, I was the same. Like, this isn't about me, but it was very similar. I was like this, and my wife was like you, and
Yeah.
like knew that it wasn't right for us, and I didn't know I wanted to do it, and then we ended up not doing it. But I've spent a month now on the coast subsequently. I'm like, that's enough.
Yeah, I'm good.
It's great. Yeah.
Yes,
Yeah.
that's
Interesting.
cool.
So,
That is
yeah.
interesting.
All right. So I'm sorry.
Hang out
So
here.
I always knew mountains, and when we were in Alone, there was a girl there at the park, and we just started talking. We had kids that were playing, and she was like, "Have you ever heard of Vilcabamba?" And I'm like, no, tell me about it. And she's
Right.
like, it's in Ecuador. And she started to explain
I
it.
thought you had, but
No.
we hadn't thought about it till she brought it back to your memory.
Gosh, I think you had.
Okay.
On
maybe.
one of your channels that you had watched. Because
Yeah,
I
which
wasn't
channel?
watching any channels. I watched nothing. I
Sure.
literally came just trusting him as, kind of like an act of, let's see how this goes.
Right.
Let's play with this a little bit. And it went great. We're still here. So she started talking about Vilcabamba and telling me, I really think you'd like it. And I said, have you heard of Vilcabamba? And then he said, oh yeah, it was on a channel somewhere.
Yeah.
And it was the Abundant Living Ecuador channel that you had seen.
So when March came around, the sun it was already like there were several cloudy days in a row, and we were like, oh man. And this is why we mentioned the weather, because we felt like the weather in Olon was a little bit sugar coated.
Right.
And that's no disrespect to anyone.
Sure.
So we want people to know the truth.
Right
It's
on.
sunny for 3 months, cloudy for 9. Essentially, like, I think you should reason from there.
I personally
It
was
may
saying
be
it's sunny
4.
for 4 months and cloudy for 8.
3 to 4, 8 to 9. All
So-
right. I like it.
So one thing we realized in Olon was that, like you're saying, you have these dreams, and then what is actually important to your family washes down.
Mm-hmm.
So we were in this period of determining how much of what we were experiencing was because of like kind of our spoiledness coming from the U.S.
Yeah, the transition
and the
period.
American conditioning. Yeah, the transition period was actually really tough.
Sure.
And so we were like, you know what? We think it's more than just being spoiled Americans. Not that we're really like spoiled or anything, but we want a car because we wanted to explore Ecuador. And messaging, because we're not fluent, we're learning more every day. There's a lot of writing a message out, going to Google Translate, translating it, texting it to 5 different taxi drivers, hoping one of them is available.
Right.
And we were doing that 2-3 times a day, loading 3 kids in the taxi. And so for some families, I still see them do that now in Vilcabamba, and it works for them.
Mm-hmm.
But it was too hard for us. So I found a car in Quito, and there's a little flight from Guayaquil to Quito. I think it was like $31, like a 30-minute flight. And I had read, if you do buy a car in Ecuador, try to get it from a dealership, because if it goes south, at least you can take action on a dealership.
Sure.
Whereas an individual, it's kind of like, later, bro.
Right, it's great advice. Yeah.
So I went up and got the car in Quito, and then we had decided, I don't know if it's your idea, probably your idea, to go ahead and just come down to Vilcabamba from Quito in the
Alone.
car.
I was with the kids.
Just
alone.
me.
Oh.
He just came alone.
Okay.
So that was last March, and I came down for 6 days, and just
To
I couldn't
feel the
believe
vibe.
it. Yeah, to
see
feel
what
the
you thought.
vibe, and I was like, this place is awesome.
Because we didn't know anybody here. We didn't
know anybody.
We just had this channel and then a strip.
Yeah. And I had stayed this Airbnb with this girl named Mary that still lives here. And it was so great because I had like a 13-hour drive with a 3-hour detour around this banana farm. And it was a long drive. And the last hour when you come to Vilcabamba is on a mountain road where you're going across creeks and section of a river. And there was a couple times where I had to use the 4-wheel drive, and it was dark. And I'm like, there was no service where I was at, those mountain roads. So I finally got there, and Mary comes out with 2 Club beers.
Oh.
And because I had been texting her throughout the day, and she was like, welcome to Vilcabamba. We thought you would need a beer or 2. And I was like, I love you.
Yes.
I was like, yes. Thank you. And we just hung out that night and had a couple beers, and they kind of talked about Vilcabamba. She was from Seattle. Met a guy named Mark. I don't remember where Mark was from, but so welcoming.
Right.
And then the next day I start seeing all these parents with their kids biking around town, walking around town, going to the market. I hear kids speaking in Spanish, and then 2 minutes later they're talking in English.
Right.
So great. And it was so much of what we were hoping would happen with our kids and stuff. And then the energy here in Vilcabamba, it's a broken record on this channel. For us, it was just so nice. It's so restful and restorative.
And it's a healing community. So I
There's lots of healers here.
In Olon, I had a hard time connecting to a lot of the other women because I'm a healer. So I kind of would have these conversations with people and be like, oh, okay, you don't really understand where I'm going. I'll just keep it, in this bubble. Like, we don't have to go in this weird bubble because I know I'm weird, But then I came here and I'm like, oh my gosh,
My people.
my people. Exactly. Like, everybody can speak the language that I'm speaking, and most people. And it's just it's been so nice, and we've made such great connections with the people here.
We have a lot of families will tell us, that it's tangible, like that it's the energy is, it's palpable, like you feel it, like you feel differently.
Yeah.
Did you guys get the sense of that as well?
Oh, yes.
Absolutely. Yeah.
Yes, absolutely. And then I remember talking to people in the square, and they're like, "Yeah, we kind of realized live in the mountains, visit the coast." It was like it's like the theme of people you meet here.
Sure.
Yeah.
We love the coast of Ecuador.
Right.
We just think it's better to live in the mountains and go visit the coast,
totally.
just personally.
Yeah.
And a lot of families here. And
so great.
we've been on kind of like this consciousness journey, this journey of like mindfulness and questioning things. Podcast plug. Our podcast is called The Rethinking Life. So just rethinking all of our indoctrination, even nationalistic indoctrination, religious indoctrination.
Any of the systems, any of the
Political
boxes you've been handed,
indoctrination.
any of the questions you couldn't ask. We ask those questions.
Like you said, critical thinking is
Right.
is rising within millions of people right now and is gaining a lot of momentum. And it's no disrespect to where you've been or where you were born, but you're willing to say, you know what, let me actually look at that as objectively as I can.
Sure.
And so we read this book, and it was talking about the 3 main ways to raise your consciousness. You're either going to stay the same or your consciousness has to increase.
Right.
Things that happen in your life that you simply just don't have the tools to handle
Sure.
with your current set of tools. And one of the ways was a major destabilizing event. So when we were visiting Ecuador, we were like, if we moved our whole family here, we sold everything, and we came here as the minority, and not knowing the language fully, that would be a major destabilizing event. And it could just really impact our path and our kids' path.
Sure.
Our generations to come.
Right,
now.
it's actually going to change generationally our whole line. So that was
that's
just
awesome.
really
Yeah.
Brave,
excited
too.
us.
Yeah, it's exciting. It's brave.
We're the people who pull the trigger. Like,
Right. It's awesome. So is this the
so-
kind of stuff you guys talk about on the podcast?
Yes.
Yeah.
So if you guys are interested in the podcast, check it out. We'll put a link in the description down below. What's the name of the podcast again?
The Rethinking Life.
The Rethinking
Yeah.
Life.
One
I like
word.
it.
Yeah. So we kind of just started it. There's 3 or 4 episodes up, but
Cool.
we'll keep doing more.
Cool. Well, now you got pressure.
To put out some new
Yeah.
content, guys.
God.
All right.
For
Reject
sure.
any and all pressure.
But like,
Solve
so I just want to say specifically, because I met you there too.
Yeah.
So as a guy, like who I've always played sports, been an athletic guy. We moved to Vilcabamba, get here on a Sunday night, and I go to basketball the next day. Last year,
Oh,
when I
no
moved
kidding.
here. And
That
Matt,
was the first day? The day after?
you came. I feel like you were in the States.
Okay. Right. You're right. Yes.
And you came like 2 months after I met you.
Okay.
But I met Jesse, Carl, Otis, Casey,
Abe and Ian and all
yeah,
those guys.
Patrick, Abe, Ian, Nico, Sebastian.
Sure.
Day 1.
Oh, it's awesome.
And these guys are like really mindful husbands, men. They're on a journey of like intentionality, and they think about like what they eat, what they read, what they spend their time doing. But they also love to ball.
Right.
So there was like
3
this
days a
balance
week,
of like,
right?
yeah,
Yeah.
we're like kind of spiritual people or whatever, and we like that kind of conversation, but we're also regular guys.
Right.
And so, yeah, and I feel like sometimes you can totally be all the way in the clouds,
Yeah,
you know.
Yeah.
And
was
I
a
really
good
dug
mix.
the relatability and the kind of spirituality of Vilcabamba.
Right.
You know.
And that's cool because it is, Vilcabamba is the valley of longevity, so it's really conducive to healing and health and wellness, and there's a lot of healers and people that practice those types of things. But then it's really conducive to like what you were talking about, hiking. There's hiking clubs and people. There's nature everywhere, and there's organized activities for kids and adults. Like basketball's 3 days a week. There's
ultimate frisbee. There used to be
Tennis.
flag football, tennis.
I'm in
ping pong.
a women's dance class. I go to
Women's
that 3
dance.
times a week.
Talk
Ecstatic
about
dance
all
on
your stuff.
Tuesdays.
Yeah, right. Yeah.
Yeah, I go to the hiking group on Tuesday
Really?
mornings.
Yeah,
Yes, I do
yeah.
all the things.
So there's lots of things to like intentionally live a healthier lifestyle, and not only just talk about it, but you're being role models for your kids and other kids,
Yeah.
because they see the adults prioritizing that. So even like the basketball, you know, you talked about, it's guys that are mindful. They're not doing it all day every day.
Right.
And maybe not everybody's not doing it 3 days a week. I can't handle 3 days a week on my knees anyway, but
Yeah.
Yeah.
you're going for a period of time and you're getting that camaraderie and that exercise and
Yeah.
that competition.
Yeah.
And your
That's
kids
so
are realizing, hey, it's important to get out there and get
Yes.
moving and be active.
Yeah. And just that's even available in Ecuador is pretty trippy.
Yeah,
Like that,
Pretty trippy.
that
Yeah,
people would be
yeah.
playing basketball. Because
Right.
basketball's not really like a huge sport here.
No, not at all.
So it's really cool. It's such a nice balance, I think,
Yeah.
Vilcabamba is.
Everyone's just so welcoming, you know. And Vilcabamba is a special place, so we've said before, like, we would understand if people, you occasionally run into someone that's super protective about Vilcabamba,
Right.
and they're like looking at you like trying to size you up if you're if you're
Right.
one of the, if you'll hang or whatever. And the guys at basketball, you know, and everyone really we've met just been so welcoming.
Right.
You know,
It's an underlying theme, man. It's community based, it's familial,
Yeah.
it's really matter. It's about, it's like not keeping up with the Joneses here. It's really about relationships and people, and you have time, and time isn't money, and
Yes.
you
Yeah.
know, it's
Yeah.
people don't treat it that way.
Yes. I think, bottom line for us is we really want a community where our kids are not just like allowed to be there, but celebrated for who they are.
Totally.
And if that means like they don't wear shoes and they don't comb their hair, that's okay. You know what
Yeah,
I'm saying? Like
sure.
whatever it is, like
Mhm.
you can be you,
Yeah.
and you don't have to
yeah.
conform or
Yeah.
fit into the box of like what a kid should be
Right.
in the States.
That's
You know what
such
I'm
a
saying?
There's less parenting judgment here.
Yeah.
Oh, it's
way
so much
less.
So
Way
that
less.
you don't know how many invisible burdens are on your shoulders
Sure.
until you get here.
Right.
And they're not on.
Yep.
And you're like, oh, it's real.
Yeah, totally.
Like, we have one daughter that loves to dress to the nines and come up with a different outfit to go out anytime we go to town. And then we have two that would rather be barefoot, and maybe they're arguing to not wear a shirt and stuff. And,
Right.
and both are equally welcome and celebrated in Vilcabamba. So even as parents, it's very low stress.
Sure.